There will come a day when your own words will betray you. You won't see it coming, but when it happens, you will feel it like a knife to the soul. Maybe it will be a secret you should have kept, but you let it slip to the wrong person. Maybe it will be a moment of anger where your tongue moved faster than your mind, and now you are left dealing with the wreckage. Or maybe, just maybe, it will be the realization that every time you opened your mouth without control, you gave away your power. Because here's the truth that most men never understand. Your words can either build your empire or burn it to the ground. And if you do not master your tongue, someone else will use it against you. Look around you. How many men have fallen because they could not keep their mouths shut? How many opportunities have been lost? How many betrayals have been invited? How many lives have been ruined simply because of reckless speech? You see, the world is full of men who think strength is about speaking louder, being heard, dominating conversations. But the truly powerful, the truly untouchable, are those who know when to remain silent. And that is exactly what separates the weak from the strong, the foolish from the wise. The greatest Stoics of history, Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, Epictetus, they all understood that self-control begins with the mouth. They knew that the man who cannot control what he says will never control his own fate. And today, you will learn what they knew. You will learn the secret that will make you unshakable, unreadable, and untouchable. But here's the thing. This is not knowledge for the weak. This is not a lesson for those who want to stay comfortable in their impulsiveness. This is for men who are ready to dominate their own emotions, to wield silence as a weapon, and to never let another person manipulate them again. If you are one of those men, if you are ready to step into the kind of power that only true discipline can bring, then subscribe right now, because what you are about to learn will change your life. And if you miss what comes next, you will never forgive yourself. Your tongue is your master or your servant. Every man reaches a crossroads where his words either elevate him to power or drag him into ruin. The difference between a man who commands respect and a man who is easily discarded is not his wealth, not his strength, but his ability to control his tongue. The weak man speaks without thought, revealing his plans to those who would sabotage him, spilling his emotions in moments of frustration, and exposing his insecurities to those who barely deserve his presence. And every time he does this, he loses a piece of himself. His words become chains that bind him, ropes that others use to pull him in every direction. But the strong man, the man who understands the weight of his words, chooses silence when necessary, speaks with precision, and leaves others in mystery. He does not beg to be understood. He does not feel the need to explain himself to the ignorant. He lets his actions, his presence, and his silence do the talking. Because in a world where everyone is screaming to be heard, the quiet man holds the real power. History has proven this over and over again. The greatest emperors, warriors, and philosophers were not the loudest men in the room. They were the most disciplined. Marcus Aurelius, a man who ruled the vast Roman Empire, knew that a careless tongue could destroy more than just reputations. It could destroy nations. He wrote in Meditations, "You always have the option of having no opinion. There is never any need to get worked up or to trouble your soul about things you can't control." And yet, how many men waste their breath on arguments that lead nowhere, on defending themselves to those who do not matter, on seeking approval from those who have never lived a day in their shoes. This is the weakness of the undisciplined. They believe speaking gives them power, when in reality it makes them predictable. And predictability is a death sentence in the art of war, in the game of influence, in the battle of life itself. A man who cannot control what he says is a man who will always be controlled by others. If his emotions dictate his speech, then anyone who understands this can manipulate him at will. If a simple insult provokes him, then his enemies know exactly how to break him. If flattery sways him, then the deceivers of the world will wrap their words around his neck like a noose. The Stoics understood this well, which is why they trained themselves to be unshakable. Epictetus, a former slave who became a master of wisdom, taught, "If someone succeeds in provoking you, realize that your mind is complicit in the provocation." A truly strong man does not react. He chooses his response. He does not let words control him. He bends them to his will. And most importantly, he never reveals more than what is necessary, because once something is spoken, it can never be taken back. Now ask yourself, how many times have your own words worked against you? How many times have you confessed your fears only to see them used against you later? How many times have you spoken in anger only to regret it when the damage was done? If you cannot master your tongue, you will never master your life. The true test of a man's strength is not in his ability to strike with his fists, but in his ability to hold back his words. But this is just the beginning. In the next chapter, you will discover why silence is not just the absence of speech, but a weapon more powerful than any spoken word. And if you truly want to master your mind, your emotions, and your destiny, stay until the end. The unbreakable power of silence. A man who speaks too much is a man without control. He is like a river with broken banks, spilling in every direction, unpredictable, reckless, and ultimately powerless. But a man who knows the power of silence, he is something else entirely. He is the mountain that does not move in the storm, the shadow that others cannot grasp, the force that commands respect without ever needing to demand it. Silence is not just the absence of speech. It is a weapon, a shield, and a throne from which the wise rule over the foolish. The greatest men in history were never the ones who talked the most. They were the ones who spoke the least. But when they did, every word struck like a hammer on stone. Because when a man controls his silence, he controls the perception of those around him. He is unreadable, unpredictable, and untouchable. Look around you. The world belongs to those who understand this law. The most feared warriors do not waste words. They let their presence speak. The most powerful leaders do not explain their every move. They let their actions reveal them at the right moment. The most dangerous enemies are not the ones who threaten you openly, but the ones who say nothing, who watch, who calculate, who wait. Marcus Aurelius, a man who ruled an empire, understood this deeply. He wrote, "Never allow yourself to be caught speaking or thinking about things that are unnecessary. If you can, cut them out." Why? Because unnecessary words expose unnecessary weaknesses. The more you speak, the more you give away. Your ambitions, your fears, your emotions, they all become tools for others to use against you. The man who learns to remain silent keeps his enemies in the dark, his allies intrigued, and his own mind undisturbed. But silence is not just about hiding your thoughts. It is about mastering yourself. The weak man fills every silence with noise because he fears what he will find in the quiet. He fears his own mind, his own insecurities, his own reality. And so he speaks, he rambles, he overshares. But the Stoic embraces silence because he understands that within it lies the ultimate power, control over oneself. Seneca, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers, once said, "As long as you live, keep learning how to live." And what is the first lesson? Restraint. If you cannot restrain your own words, how can you ever hope to restrain your thoughts, your actions, your life? The moment you become comfortable with silence, you begin to hear what others miss. You start observing the world with clarity. You notice the intentions behind words, the weaknesses in men, the patterns that the undisciplined overlook. And this is where true dominance begins. When you speak, make sure it is deliberate, make sure it is necessary, make sure it carries weight, because the man who speaks little but says much will always be feared, respected, and sought after. The world follows those who know when to remain silent and when to strike with words like arrows that never miss their target. But if you think silence is only about control, you are mistaken. There is something even greater, something even darker about those who master it. In the next chapter, you will discover the deadly advantage of mystery, why being unpredictable is the most powerful weapon you can wield. If you truly seek to rise above the masses, then do not miss what comes next. The deadly advantage of mystery. A man who cannot be read is a man who cannot be controlled. This is the unspoken rule that governs power, influence, and survival. Look at the greatest figures in history. Were they loud, predictable, easily understood? No. They were shadows moving through the world, revealing only what they wanted others to see, speaking only when necessary, and leaving behind an air of uncertainty that kept even their enemies hesitant. A predictable man is a weak man, for he has no defenses against those who study him, dissect him, and use his own patterns against him. But a man who embraces mystery, who guards his thoughts, conceals his emotions, and controls his speech, becomes untouchable. Others will fear him without knowing why. They will respect him without understanding him, and they will follow him without question, because in the absence of predictability, they assume strength beyond measure. Consider the men who rise to power and those who fall, the ones who reveal too much, who let their emotions spill, who make their thoughts obvious. These are the men who are easily manipulated, who are outmaneuvered before they even realize they are in a game. The greatest warriors of history did not announce their battles before they fought them. The sharpest minds did not reveal their intentions before they acted. Sun Tzu, the ancient master of strategy, wrote, "Let your plans be dark and impenetrable as night, and when you move, fall like a thunderbolt." This is the essence of true power: to be seen but never fully known, to be heard but never fully understood, to exist in a state where no man can anticipate your next move, because he cannot even grasp your current one. But why does mystery hold so much power? Because the human mind craves certainty. It wants to categorize, to predict, to label. And when it cannot do so, it becomes uneasy, cautious, even fearful. A man who is mysterious commands respect without demanding it. He never needs to prove himself because others assume his strength in the absence of weakness. The undisciplined man, on the other hand, wears his heart on his sleeve. He tells people what he thinks, what he feels, what he fears. He hands them the blueprint to his own destruction. But the Stoic understands the game. He keeps his cards close, his emotions locked away, and his thoughts guarded like a fortress. This is not deception. It is discipline. It is the conscious choice to let only the worthy glimpse into your mind, while the rest are left to wonder. And so the question remains: are you predictable? Do people know exactly how you will react? Can they anticipate your next move before you make it? If so, you are already at a disadvantage. But that disadvantage can be erased if you learn to embrace the unknown, if you learn to guard your words, and if you learn the art of strategic silence. But mystery is only the beginning. There is another level, a darker level, where true mastery lies. In the next chapter, you will discover how to make people respect you without ever demanding it, how to command authority without speaking a word. And once you unlock this, you will never see the world the same way again. Do not miss what comes next.